Hey YouTube, thanks for stopping by. The results are finally in for U's fifth and final season. Now that it's been several months since the release of this video on April 1st, it's only right that I finally swallow my pride and confess that it was an April Fool's Day prank, my early review this season. While I do have experience with advanced screening, as some of you may know from the time Caroline Kepnes sent me an advanced copy of book four, I unfortunately wasn't able to pull that off this time around for the final season of my all-time favorite show, which is probably even harder since it's on Netflix. Even then, there's an embargo for these kind of things, and in the use case, it's not lifted until midnight on the day of release. So I wouldn't have gotten to talk about it so soon. Nevertheless, it was a fun video. My first time writing a theoretical review, and I didn't have to pass up the opportunity to pull a nice, harmless prank on my audience. The funniest part about it was letting the joke stick for the entire month of April by replying to comments and ignoring emails and DMs from people begging to know more about how the show ends. But now that I've actually seen it along with everyone else, let's talk about it. And we're going to do that with a special guest. Justin, please say hello.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I am Justin, and I'm excited to be here and excited to talk about You Season 5.
Let's start from the beginning. What is your thoughts on the general process, the general plot, the starting point of the show? Uh, where we're at in season five, episode one. What is your thoughts on the starting point for that?
Well, first off, I remember seeing your video on April Fool's Day, and that was, I had a hunch that it was an April Fool's joke. And and then when I finished watching You Season 5, I went back to your video to see like, is any of this like kind of applicable? And some of it kind of was. I mean, you were kind of vague in how you were talking about things, so it did work for your April Fool's video.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, that was just really funny. I guess too, I forgot to preface. I work within the television landscape. I work in the editing and producing field. Just to give you any relevant insight or whatever into what I could possibly contribute, besides just being a fan like you, the TV series and even the book series is one of it was one of my favorite shows of all time. It's kind of petered a bit since then, which we can get into. And I guess too, as well, just because I'm a newbie here in terms of our conversation, as long as it's okay, before we even talk about season 5, I guess it would be fair to talk just quick thoughts on seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4, as well as
Agreed. Yeah.
the books. Yeah, just quick thoughts, and we don't have to go too into detail because we can certainly talk about references and such. So for me, and I know I've gotten your takes too on we've chatted a bunch. Don't get me started on that.
Yeah. There's this
Uh,
in this conversation on Reddit over like
uh,
60 plus replies. Like you can
60
scroll
plus.
for a long time, and it's like wow, I've never had a conversation with someone this long in the comment section.
It's all
Spanning
insightful though. Yeah, it's
yeah,
all good.
spanning months. Like it's all really good stuff. And then we eventually moved it into a Reddit chat. But
Yeah,
that is
had to.
interesting. Yeah.
So, but long story short, season 1 and book 1 for that matter, because they're almost very comparable. Season 1, um, felt like at the time just a breath of fresh air in the thriller genre, just because and I know it was adapted from a book, and the book came out years prior. And a friend of mine who lives in the UK told me to read the book. He himself thought it was just kind of okay, but he told me to check it out, and I didn't get to it until I saw the show first. But the show just felt like a breath of fresh air, just because it took that thriller approach, but put you in the POV of pretty much the villain. And at the same time introduced rom-com elements within it,
Mm-hmm.
or like call it more just like romantic drama, maybe not comedy. It's more of a comedy if you start finding humor in certain things, especially because you're in the protagonist POV the whole time. But then, of course, they give you an angle, at least especially in the show, that they don't do in the books, where they show a more human side, a more sympathetic side that you'll have towards him because of like the character Paco in season 1. And the show just felt, I mean, besides it was expertly made. It was filmed in New York. The color grading, they had these beautiful shades of red throughout that just made everything pop. And the music done by composer Blake Neely just
Hmm.
was great stuff. And season one, I say to anyone, you can watch that season and then not watch anything else and be satisfied. It stands alone by
Yeah.
itself. It's fantastic. Season two
Well, let
is
me chime in on season
oh
one.
oh please
Um,
by all means.
yeah, I think season one and book one are very like synonymous. Is that the right, if that's the right word?
Yeah,
Like they're almost very equal on like, but you balance the two on the scale. Um, then season two feels like half of book two. Hence
sure.
the twist at the end. Because there's a whole like second half where Joe kind of enters the film industry and gets connected,
Hmm.
well connected. Um, something that probably the show probably took after, which is having Joe always upgrade and upgrade and upgrade.
Yes,
I
like a video
eventually,
game.
yeah, I wanted Joe to get away with everything, but when I realized he had too much power at the end of season four, I was like, okay, he has to lose everything because he has too much power to get away with everything, like way too much power. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Season two for me and book two, which thanks for bringing that up too. Season two felt like Season two felt like a great way to do a sequel to anything. It's a sequel season to the first, and how do
mhm.
you do that? They introduce us to a lot of familiar things. Very much when I was watching season two for the first time, I'm just like, oh, this is like kind of the same thing again. Like, I mean, even as far as I mean, the two, the main guy and the main girl. Share their first kiss with each other in the second episode, just like Joe and Beck do in season one, episode two. There's a lot of like symmetry that they do, but then of course towards the end they definitely shake things up and they definitely give you something where um, maybe you're going into this expecting you're going in and it's like a baseball game, but they give you a football game instead, but it's like a really good football game kind of thing, and
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy. I was kind of put off by the if when I first saw the season two trailer, it felt like we were kind of starting over, but
hmm.
um, I think it's the perfect sequel. I always say that it's
Oh yeah,
like season one
100%
is a
agree.
perfect season, season two is a perfect
Hmm.
sequel to that season, um,
Absolutely.
and
And
then yeah,
sorry, I was just gonna say with the book, obviously the book is its own continuity, but in many ways I found the book complementary to the second season, or the second season is complementary to the book. It's a weird thing for me because once when I finished season two, it like clicked for me. I'm like, I love this. I'm a fan. I immediately drove out and bought both of the books and read them within the span of 2 days. And
wow,
Hidden Bodies, this the second book, to me, and I know it technically came first, but um, a lot of the things that Joe and Love and 40 all do within that book would you could say like if their characters did it in the show, you'd be like, yeah, that checks out. And if the characters from the show did the same thing in the book, you'd be like, yeah, that checks out. I mean, the character of Milo is certainly expanded on in that book, but
oh
for the
yeah, I
for the
yeah,
most part, like you know, they have this the pantry store, and then they have a Navrin. There's a lot of similarities there. Of course, they do a lot of things differently, but it feels like the way I kind of took it, and I know again it's its own continuity, and I treat it like that. But in some ways, it's neat to read the book to kind of it makes me feel like I'm expanding more and learning more about the characters, even though again, Love
hmm
is like she's a film producer or something in that book, if I'm correct. Or she works and Joe, as you were saying, like Joe um, goes and eventually gets into the film industry in the book. He starts like writing screenplays. Um, so yeah, pairing up with what you said though, yeah, he keeps pretty much leveling up, and I understand that's what they have to do. By the end of season two, he's leveled up. He now is has entered himself
and
into
views it
this.
as a prison.
Yes, yes, and many people felt season two, and the reason why I know certainly why we started talking was when I was talking to my friend group, I was trying to make all of these crazy analogies, and they were just like,
man, this is a fun little show I like to watch. And I'm like, okay, you're not seeing the big picture here. But um like in season two, when he he's in suburbia with Love and they're going to have a kid together, it very much felt like he says it himself. He's like, I built my own cage, I built my own prison, even though he's in this like wealthy family. And it also alludes to things from that book, Crime and Punishment, which is a great book, and they
Hmm.
reference it throughout the season, and you could see how they drew a lot of stuff, especially from the main character, Raskolnikov, I think his name is. And it really brilliant stuff. And again, what season two by the end did was it gave you this crazy thing where you've got this crazy person who somehow meets a equally crazy woman. They're having a kid together and they're moving into suburbia. I mean, you have set the stage for some crazy off the wall stuff. You could pretty much do nearly whatever you want. You have this crazy blank slate of madness that you can just tap into. So I guess moving on to season three then. Uh, uh,
Season three. I
yeah, yeah.
think that was actually what started our long conversation.
Yes, it did.
I asked the subreddit what's missing, what magic is missing from season three that makes it not as decent as the rest of the seasons. In hindsight, I think it's tolerable. Like, I don't think it's the worst.
No.
Um, not by any means, it's not the worst. I think we talked about this. You could kind of see the impact that the pandemic had on it,
Oh
and that
yeah.
it's missing certain it's missing a few bones. You said something that stuck out. You said we're hearing things, but we're not feeling things. Because it sounds like Madre Linda was supposed to be a more immersed part with the story. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think in hindsight, it's good. It's when like also kind of accepted that Joe's going to the show was moving too fast for me. I felt like I feel like season I feel like a season two twist should have been more of a season three twist. And I felt like, you know, him thinking he's dead and no longer
Hmm.
being able to be him is more of a 4 or 5 season thing. Um and the con he actually did sign for 6 seasons. So I would appreciate a little bit more of a long game. But each season does its own thing, and sets it's like flipping over, moving on to a new book, like the books.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's I guess that's the gist of it. When I watched Dexter, which the show clearly takes a lot of inspiration from, I realized that's why the show progresses so fast. Not just because the books does it, because season one of Dexter feels like season 10. It just feels so like the writing, it's very pivotal. It's like, wow, this is the first season of a show. This must have been, I can't imagine what the reception was back then, because that writing, which I'm glad that we're getting that quality again in the Dexter Resurrection, is that writing quality is a scarcity. And even back then, I don't think all writing was that good. Um, so I think Dexter really stands out, and that makes me glad that you is taking certain elements of it and look what that show has become as a result. I think the ending sequence was very pleasant, with the Exile song playing by Taylor Swift. Um, and it's just beautiful. I feel like I was receiving, I feel like I was reading a really good book, and the words were coming out the screen into me. To be able to feel that's one of my favorite episodes for sure.
So your thing about Dexter was because as I've told you, I only seen the first season. I know you
Hmm.
keep telling me to watch it, and I someday I will. But what I'll say about that is the writing possibly and really was so good because when you're making a show, especially like that, especially then, you've got one season and you have got to just put all of your cards on the table, especially with subject content like that. You have to basically put it all
Yeah,
on the table
yeah.
and really hope your audience bites because
for per the creators and the crew and the writers, like this is their one shot, and it's that dumb saying, "Go big or go home," but it's the truth. And people luckily latched on, and that's what makes making, in terms of a pure writing and creative standpoint, making subsequent seasons or follow-ups very tough because you very much want to you don't want to try and completely outdo yourself, but you'd like to outdo yourself. You'd like to keep the audience gauged and baited to keep seeing what happens next. Um, so for season three of You, I will concur that it's fine. I still am firmly like the production aspect, everything they're doing behind the camera is still top notch. There's these
Mhm.
really awesome choices that some of the directors, like there's one director named Silver Tree, where there's these great like bird's eye view shots that they'll do within the household that not very easy to pull off, especially they were trying to do these tricky shots during the COVID filming. And the color grading too is interesting because season
Mhm.
one is more red, season two is more yellow, and season three is more green
Mhm.
if you're watching. And the COVID aspect, it's a weird thing because once when you know season three was made during COVID protocols, they filmed that from November 2020 until March or April 2021. When you know that, suddenly it's like glass shattering or something. Suddenly you can't like unsee
Mhm.
certain things. As you were saying, Madre Linda, they talk that Madre Linda is this big town. They talk about how the town is so huge and connected, but you don't really get that sense because of their limited use of extras and their limited uses of location. They were filming a lot of this on a backlot. Um, the Fresh Tart pastry shop is a building that's been used for a lot of things. And
Mhm.
you see like there's this birthday party in one of the episodes, and they're all like super distant from each other and everything. And a lot of the characters that are featured within frame, there's only maybe like 2 to 5 characters in all the time in frame. And again, it's not a detriment by any means to the story they were trying to tell, but you can also tell that they certainly had to cut corners, and they had to change some things around to still get to the conclusion that they wanted to get to. I personally thought the first 4 episodes of season three were the best the show has ever been. That is delivering on that promise that they made at the end of season two. However, around I'd say episodes 5 through 8 is when they kind of stall. They're introducing new ideas, but they're kind of stalling and not really giving you a reason to get behind really any character. That being said, when things do build up to the finale, it's a very impressive finale. And had that been the just the end of the show, if they said the ending of season three was just the end of the series, it's an effective ending. I mean, it's a really cool thing where at that ending shot where Joe disappears into the crowd, and that's kind of it feels kind of surreal and dreamlike, especially because the whole season you're spending in this suburbia, then boom, suddenly like hard cut, and he's now in France. Uh, so and then a quick talk about book three, You
Mhm.
Love Me.
It holds a really special place in my heart. Um, I really love Mary Kay and how I feel like it's a bit of a better version of Beck. Um, and the the way in which it's a slow build and he's still like who he is on the sideline, plus other aspects like um is it Nomi? Um
Nomi, Nomi.
yeah,
That's her nickname. She has like some other name or whatever, but that's her nickname.
Meerkat?
Is that it? I don't remember.
Yeah,
That
it's
sounds
been
familiar.
questioned if Caroline Kepnes had a writer's burnout. Um and if that's what, because at one point it's nickname after nickname, like two in each sentence, and it's like, okay, let's stop. You're overusing the word, like, so it's
Hmm.
like this is like towards the end of the book, and it's like, what was that? You could feel the quality of the writing, kind of like going back a little bit, and feeling a little bit lazy, but overall the book is amazing. I loved seeing Mary, a spoiler alert for book three. I loved seeing Mary Kay and Joe progress to the point where he proposes. It's just really good storytelling, and I'm glad that the loss had nothing to do with who he is, the
No.
ending of the book.
I thought the book was very it was a very I agree about some of the writing things, but I think the overall concept of Joe didn't actually kill anyone in that book. But
Yeah,
but his presence was like a festering plague where like he was a plague and everyone he was around, things just happened from stuff he was doing. Like there was that Mary Kay's ex-husband or husband Phil
Clyde.
who
Yeah, Phil.
Phil, like that character cracked me up in the book just because he was like delusional the whole time. But
There's also Oliver.
Oliver, who was the guy who was following Joe or whatever. Um yeah, so no, I agree. I thought and the only disappointing thing I'll say with You Love Me was they teased Love Quinn's appearance throughout the book, and you
Hmm.
felt like you were going to build to something monstrous. And it's
Hmm.
significant when the confrontation does happen. It's
Yeah,
significant,
definitely.
but I felt like it should have been more. And it's interesting too how like Mary Kay is a librarian, and then Marianne in You season three is a librarian. I kind of saw very much similarities between both of those characters, though I guess I very much, at least in terms of book three versus season three, I preferred Mary Kay's character more to Marianne in terms of the new love interest that's introduced. Um, but yeah, the third book I still thought was solid. It wasn't as strong as the prior two, but I still thought it was solid. Um, there were definitely disappointing aspects, but I I guess I would say I thought season one and book one were about comparable.
Hmm.
Same with season two and book two, though I might give the slight edge to book two. And then season
Right.
three and book three, I might give
The book
the
wasn't out yet, but
yeah.
Caroline Kepnes did say that they had a early copy of the book, so they did have the
Oh,
access to
okay.
the book, so they were able to do those references and take inspiration from that.
Okay. But yeah, no, book three again. Book three, it was like book three was disappointing, but it wasn't a bad book. It was like slightly disappointing, but
Yeah,
yeah, and that's weird. It's like you're still getting something. It's still good. It's just I
I
don't know.
really like the way she does things, Caroline
Yeah,
Kepnes.
me too, me too.
Her storytelling format is literally inventive, and things don't have to always end in a format of problem solution,
No,
with a climax in between. Like this book definitely displayed that. Um,
you read Providence, right?
I didn't finish it. I haven't finished it.
Okay,
I
because
read quite a good chunk of it.
it's what you were just saying about how she does things towards the end of that thing. You definitely feel it. And also when you read Providence, you'll definitely want to have SpaghettiOs. That is the weird
Yeah.
like after I finished that book, I bought SpaghettiOs because the main character in that book has SpaghettiOs very frequently.
Yeah, I'll definitely like either restart it or finish it up when the show we're closer to the show coming out.
Right, right. I forgot they're doing that.
I hope it doesn't get shelved. It's a
No, me
possibility.
neither. Oh, that's gonna be a really that's gonna be like what you was. As long as they get the right people on board, that is going
It's Sarah
to
Gamble and Greg Berlanti,
oh,
so that's a
that's
start.
awesome. Okay, cool. Then yeah, no, that's going to catch fire as long as they're doing like they did you season one to the book, that thing
Hmm.
is gonna catch fire. It was a really uh it was a very unique story. It has a lot of things you've certainly read or seen before, but it's a new spin on things, just like what the first U book was. So,
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
um,
And with book four,
book four.
we kind of you kind of see the transition from book three to book four in the sense that he hadn't killed anyone in book. Have you read book four?
Yes, yeah,
So in book three, he doesn't kill anyone, and in book four, his kills are somewhat indirect. Like,
they're indirect.
yeah, he lets someone. fall into a trap he set up, which isn't technically him doing it, you could argue. He's responsible for it. And I think one
But then
person he got them good and then realized they were gay and had to go get them
yeah.
back and help them out.
Yeah, because he realized that later, and he's just like, "Oops." But then he tripped the bicycle instructor or whatever, and that was completely intentional.
Mm-hmm.
I think his name was Glenn or something. I think Glenn.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, Glenn.
Um, and season four, let's talk about it.
Season
I think
four.
it's different, very different. The half and half aspect is it's something the audience wasn't used to, which played a part in reception. I think people still haven't kind of accepted that You is a different approach to storytelling. Um,
Sure.
and season four is the best example of that. Um, it's like it's like, okay, where to go from here? The whole genre is different in the first half. Then we get back to where we were in the second half, but it has to make up for what was behind it. I don't think it was bad, but you have to get past the um, you have to get past that it's different, a different approach to writing. And I think that's why it's controversial. It's the Child's Play 3 of the franchise.
Yeah, I agree. I have a season four is very interesting to me for so many reasons. First
Mm-hmm.
off, the part one and part two thing I did not participate in. I thought that was a very silly release strategy, so I said I will watch because especially it was within weeks of each other. So I said, you
Mm-hmm.
know what? I'm gonna watch the whole thing in one go, and I did. And but I do understand how you can separate those into two halves. Truth be told, you can separate all of the seasons into two halves, and there's a great point in season five where you can separate. Imagine if they stop season five after the fifth episode, which we'll get to, but you know, in what happens in episode five at the very end, you could stop there. Imagine if they made us wait a month for the next half. It would have worked just as well. But season four was on a first watch is a very good time. It's a very good time, but on every rewatch, it is nothing because the first half is pretty much nothing. What I would like to say though is someone should do this. If not, maybe I will. Someone should edit the entire You series in chronological order, including like the flashbacks, where you can watch season four with all of those reveals that they show in the second half, and then you see that already, then you jump into all of the first half of that season four. It's gonna feel like a radically different thing because that whole first half you're just like, Joe, bro, there is a woman like just chilling in a box like not too far from where you're walking, man. Like there's like those kind of things where um, season four felt very much like they wanted to try something different and they wanted to divert from the norm, especially because they were in a different country. And maybe they were during the writing process, and I don't know this obviously, but maybe they were testing the waters to see how long can they keep this up? And maybe it was during that process in constructing season four where they realized, okay, we can't make this go on forever. So maybe that's what made them decide that season five needed to be the final season. But that being said, season four was very what's the word, like bombastic or pompous in its initial approach of how everything felt so inflated and it felt very silly like a murder mystery um and there was that, and then ultimately what you find out, it's that like image of SpongeBob from that episode where he's the police hall monitor guy chasing down an evil person who's just himself. But I will say though, that
Mm-hmm.
it's a very introspective journey into Joe's psyche and his psychic break, which in retrospect, I have a lot of thoughts about uh how that season ties into the bigger picture here. And as a whole, though, they do deliver with the fourth season. It just very much felt like they had a really good idea and they needed to find a way to really stretch it out. more so than even season three. In season three, they were burdened by COVID protocols, but they weren't in season four. And with season four, it just felt like they had a really good idea. Like, I'm repeating myself, but um, it felt like they used the all of the ancillary characters to kind of distract from the bigger picture. And it's fine on the first viewing, but on the second viewing and third and fourth or whatever, it's um it's less and less interesting, for sure. But
Yeah,
again,
I want. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, but like at the end of season two, at the end of season four, they give you like another promise, like they do at the end of season two for something. And it was kind of fascinating by the very tail end on that like those last 30 seconds or last minute. Suddenly you just go, huh, before jumping into season five.
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest letdowns of season four is, for one, I knew that I had a huge hunch that season four would be the beginning to the end. Um, and additionally, I wanted the way they promoted the season had a strong legacy presence. Like, okay, someone presumably from Joe's past is messing with him, and ready to take him down. Kind of like Bronte, but with a more technological aspect, because that was the bones of season one. Sarah Gamble says her pitch to the show was using Joe's tactics of figuring things out about people. Like they told someone in the pitch room, "Hey, we know that you go do your kid's soccer game at this time of day on this day of the week." That was that was the season one premise, that someone who isn't necessarily is using simple tactics to stalk, um, but without being an extraordinary hacker or anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, and but I thought it was somewhat countering that from its past, presumably from season one, because they knew everything. And then it would have been good if that was like Annika or someone who was the role of Reese. Um, or you know, I'm sure someone from season two could have also worked.
Sure.
But um it ended up just being Joe the whole time, and I thought, okay, so we're still stuck on doing everything season by season with no legacy aspects really, besides
No, the
season
legacy.
two and three.
Yeah, the legacy aspect is a good point, and it makes and again on rewatches, the big one that gets me every single time, especially when you know, is the scene when he walks in with all of the articles like taped to the wall. I'm like, are you really telling me that he quote unquote dissociated and really took all of this time and did all of that, like that, constructed that whole thing? Uh, in that takes a while. That's not like that does not take like 10 minutes. That is a long process to make that. And again, on a first viewing, it
Are you talking about the
works.
papers on the wall?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's very silly on rewatches because you're like it's very hard to believe. And I thought the editing choices were strange in season four, and I wasn't. I agree with you that it would have been a way better idea if it was a legacy character. If they decided to tap into that, hell, maybe a lot of people were suggesting. This is not my idea, but that the fixer from the Quins, whatever that guy's name was, the guy who talked to Joe at the beginning of season
Mm-hmm.
four, that he saved Love from the burning fire. Like Love, basically, because he knows their family. She asked him. She called in a favor. She was expecting Joe was going to be up to something, and so he was basically waiting in the shadows and saves her. And then, so then theoretically, it could have been Love behind the scenes,
You
and that's how
referring
you
to Elliot, the fixer?
Elliot the fixer. Thank you, that guy. And like basically, someone suggested that Love got in contact with Elliot at the end of season three, and Elliot pulled her out of the house, and she survived. And so you find out that the person doing all this to Joe is her again with the legacy character thing, or it could have been anyone else. But I saw that, and I'm like, with a little bit of tweaking, maybe that could have worked. But again, it was just, uh, kind of strange how they didn't bother delving in. The Annika idea wasn't bad, or anyone from season 2 as well. They could have certainly rolled with that. Um, but again, they didn't, because their bigger picture here was it's Joe's story in the end. That's essentially what they're trying to get at least by
Yeah.
you get that idea by the end of season 4 at least.
Yeah, I think the other letdown is that they didn't build enough on those ancillary characters.
No.
Season 3 had the same problem to an extent, but they were able to still manage. But in season 4, you have a whole second half dedicated to people being killed. Yet you feel like that princess chick was didn't play any part at all, and then you keep forgetting Colin exists. Uh, they wrap up their
Oh
stories
yeah.
nicely at the end of the episode, but it's like we don't feel a conclusion there because we don't feel like their story actually began. But some characters, that's a very select few, were built on, such as I think it was Adam.
Adam,
Um,
sort of. It felt like they needed to give him something to do in the second half, so he proposed to Phoebe. That's like it felt like even he
and Phoebe
had
was
his
very built on.
Phoebe was very built on, um, but again, she also was just, truth be told, she was just, they were all these characters just used as distractions, because the real core of that story was basically just Joe and Marianne and maybe Kate. But it was really about Joe and Marianne. That was like the core, I'd say, of the story of season. And Reese Montrose, of course, but it's more about how Joe's dealing with something or someone like that. So, but like even characters like Phoebe or Adam, they were definitely just more to be distractions at the beginning, but they did build on Phoebe, and again, she got a really good ending. But
Hmm.
her character, though, as well as a lot of the others, they don't add really anything to the overall point of the evolution of Joe's
I will
story
say
in that season.
they did enough with I get the name mixed up. It's either Matthew or Malcolm. The season 4, the first one, Joe kills.
Oh, Malcolm.
I think
Malcolm.
yeah, Kate's boyfriend.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
and they did enough with him for how long he was alive for.
Yeah.
But other than that, people can't. I've known people who can't get through the first half of the season because it's so boring because none of these characters are properly built on. Um, and then Kate's not a U yet, and that adds an absence. Because we're waiting this whole time for Reese to like figure out the Reese reveal.
Yep.
Um, but overall, if you can get past the execution, it's a pretty good season, and it tells its story that it's trying to tell. But it's one of those gray areas where people will view it as either hit or miss. But it definitely is a messy one.
It's a messy one. It's for me, it's weird because at the time I liked it more than season 3, but now after season 5, I now like season 3 more than season 4. It's very
Hmm.
strange, but again, so that took a little longer to recap, but it's not a big deal or anything. I'm glad we were able to vent our thoughts about. Just it's good because we're going to go into season 5, so it's just good that, we all.
And that, my friends, is our recap of seasons 1 through 4 of You. I didn't initially plan on going over the entire series. As you can kind of tell, I tried to jump right into season 5 at the beginning there. I've done plenty of individual videos on the series, talking about each individual season on a variety of different subjects. But as Justin will go on to say in the season 5 review, it'd be a great idea to establish how we're feeling about the series leading up to the final season due to the simple fact that it is the last one. And if there's ever going to be a better time to discuss the entire series, this was that time. So thank you for that, Justin, and thank you for finding time to come on to have a discussion with me. This was a great bonus to doing this kind of video about the show that I've been watching since the beginning and have enjoyed making videos and edits about since then. It was a huge pleasure, so thank you all for watching and hopefully making it to the end, and hope to have you all back for when I release the remainder of this review discussing season 5. Until next time, goodbye.